Ms. Jennings.
My name is Susan Jennings, and I am first and foremost the mother of a severely autistic young man with IDD and comorbid psychiatric disorders. Now, I've heard a number of false assertions here that I can refute, and I can refute them with evidence. You are told that everyone can live successfully in the community. Well, my son's life refutes that. That is an untruth. He began in the community with community services. In the short space of 4 years, he was discharged from 6 different group homes in 3 different places across the state. They were not up to the task of managing his challenging behaviors due to the systemic shortcomings and the inherent flaws of the community system. During his tenure in the group homes, he suffered a broken eye socket, stitches in the back of his head. He had multiple mysterious bruises. He was exposed to pornography against his will. He went unbathed for days. He slept on a bare mattress. And he was forced on he was toxically over-medicated with multiple psychotropics, which left him with secondary Parkinsonian tremors in his hands, disfiguring female breasts, excessive weight gain, serotonin syndrome, and psychotic breaks with reality. Because their system is not up to the task. He was never more lonely, never more isolated, and never more segregated than when he was in the community. He was always put in a one-person group home with 2 staff. He was like a prisoner in solitary confinement with 2 guards to keep him from running into the street. The group homes who were unable to manage him forcibly Section 302'd him into 5 different psychiatric wards. He languished in one psychiatric ward for as long as 6 months, not because he needed to be there, but because he had no other place to go. He was rejected by providers all over the state. The community failed him again and again. We did try to drink the deinstitutionalization Kool-Aid of the Ark, but it kept coming back up. He was ultimately rescued by Whitehaven Center, the intensive and compassionate care of an intermediate care facility, after we had to spend a costly court battle fighting ODP to gain admission. So we don't choose Whitehaven because we don't know what's out there. We choose Whitehaven because we do. Now, I am not here just to fight for my son. I am here to fight for every mother and every father of every severely autistic individual in the generations to come. Psychiatric boarding is now a common phenomenon for young autistic adults, and it can be traced directly to the shortcomings of deinstitutionalization and the elimination of the specialized care facilities like Whitehaven and like Polk that are ideally suited to care for this population. Please understand that when the deinstitutionalization dinosaurs refuse to acknowledge that the disability landscape has changed. In the 1960s, when deinstitutionalization began, only 1 in 10,000 births were autism. Today, it's 1 in 59. Let that sink in. Of the 40% of the DHS caseload is now autism. 80% of that caseload are children under the age of 18. Within the next 10 years, they're coming of age. Between 10 and 50% of them will be as severely impaired as my son, and they need Whitehaven. They need Polk. They don't know it yet, but they do. And to throw away this resource to our needy citizens is wildly reckless and staggeringly stupid. It's short-sighted in the extreme. Psychiatric boarding is now a common phenomenon. And you can read it in media exposés, like the Washington Post in 2017, entitled "Nowhere to Go: Young People with Autism Languish in Psych Wards." Because community services fall short for this population, national numbers on people with autism who are seen in the hospital ERs doubled since 2009. How many severely autistic adults are languishing in psychiatric wards in Pennsylvania and retrofitted emergency rooms? This question needs to be answered. From the NW News Network in 2019, contempt orders, fines as developmentally disabled patients languish in local hospitals. Court commissioners has found the state of Washington in contempt and imposed fines over people with severe developmental disabilities languishing in hospitals. Is that any way for a state to save money? I think not. From Because We Care, a hospital is not a home. A suit has been filed by Disability Rights Washington, no friend to state centers, to prevent other developmentally disabled citizens from getting stuck in hospitals for months and years at a time. This blog asks the eminently reasonable question of why not utilize the option of state-operated ICFs for these individuals. So why is it I contend that community services cannot be remediated no matter how much money you throw at them, and I'll tell you why. ICF IDDs must conform to the most comprehensive set of strict federal regulations. Appendix J, 257 pages long. Group homes do not. ICF IDDs must provide active treatment, an aggressive, consistent implementation of a program of specialized and generic training, treatment, and health services. Group homes are not required to provide active treatment and seldom do. ICF IDs have on the premises multidisciplinary teams of treatment professionals as supervisors, nurses, doctors, and behaviorists. And because it is a congregate care setting, you need fewer professionals to treat more patients, thus a cost savings, the economy of scale. Group home staffs do not. They do not have this warm, supportive, caring environment. They must rely upon 911, burdening the police, the courts, the emergency rooms, the jails, and psychiatric wards at great cost to the legislators and the taxpayers. Now, here's the big kicker. Staff in the ICF IDs are justly compensated, highly trained, and supported in their challenging work with the daily emergencies of the behaviorally challenged and the medically fragile. The workforce is stable and consistent. Direct service personnel in group homes have none of this support. Everyone says they're not getting paid enough money. They're not getting paid enough money. Well, it's more than that. They don't have any support. So therefore, there is a 40% staff turnover rate every year in group homes in this state. That results in a shortage of 55,000 DSP positions across Pennsylvania. Group home providers are left scrambling to fill 11,000 positions for every shift, every day in Pennsylvania. If Teresa Miller and ODP were really interested in meeting the needs of those with autism, they would invest in the ICF IDD component, and they would make it more cost effective by opening the doors to the centers to voluntary admissions. This would free up the community system so to serve the individuals they're suited to serve, and it would lower the rates of abuse and neglect and death in their system. Who makes public policy? Shouldn't it be the public? Shouldn't it be their elected representatives? It is unconscionable that the decision to close down the state centers, a safety net, a lifeline, and a resource as treasured as any public state park, has been made without the input and over the objections of Pennsylvania families, our elected representatives, our community leaders, our faith-based groups, and our taxpayers. We call upon our legislators here, now, and today, convene a joint commission to investigate this short-sighted, reckless, fiscally irresponsible, and cruelly inhumane decision before any further action is taken to close Whitehaven and Polk. Thank you for letting me speak today.
Thank you.